Hello, learners. I welcome you to the third lecture of week 3 in the course Environmental Politics, Theories, Concepts, and Debates. In this week, we are discussing environmental movements at the global level. Today, we will discuss the Greenpeace movement. Greenpeace movement is one of the movement which has wide global presence, and Greenpeace movement actually gives a very interesting case to understand that what kind of changes occur when a movement shifts into a kind of social movement organization, especially in terms of its strategies and methods. It also would help us to understand that what kind of challenges a movement or an organization faces in terms of consolidation when it starts expanding at the global level. So today in this lecture, we will talk about the origin of Greenpeace movement, its organizational framework, various strategies and methods adopted by Greenpeace movement in its various campaigns, and we will also try to understand the challenges which Greenpeace movement has faced over a period of time. This is the outline of the lecture. We are going to cover these aspects in today's lecture. To begin with a brief introduction about Greenpeace. So it is one of the most influential environmental NGO which was founded in 1971 at Vancouver. It gradually emerged as a global network of 25 independent national and regional Greenpeace organizations, which we call NROs. And these NROs are in over 55 countries across Europe, Americas, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. And Greenpeace International is working as a coordinating organization. The organization and movement started as a loosely structured group of like-minded activists, and gradually it adopted a more institutionalized and professional framework. In the beginning, its prime focus was on combating nuclear testing, but gradually it expanded its agenda, and now it includes issue of pollution, habitat destruction, deforestation, genetically modified species, climate change, oil drilling, and so on. When I say that it is a organization or a movement with wide global presence, this picture can help you to understand that. All these green marks are indicating where Greenpeace is working. So you can see it has covered almost the whole globe, and it has its center in every part of the globe. So it speaks of the wide global presence of Greenpeace movement. Now we'll talk about the context of the Greenpeace movement, how it started. So the background for Greenpeace somewhere got prepared during 1960s. You see, 1960s, we have seen it earlier also, was a period where number of people's movement were going on. And one very important issue in the student movement, new left movement, peace activist movements was the issue of unending race for arms and nuclear power. One very important episode in this context was the protest against Vietnam War. Because of these all pressure, ultimately in 1963, a partial test ban treaty was signed between US and USSR, where they decided that now they are not going to conduct atmospheric tests. That is, they are not going to conduct nuclear tests in atmosphere, outer space, and water. So now it was decided that the nuclear test would be underground. And the US Department of Defense, it planned an underground test on Amchitka in Alaska, which was a wildlife refuge situated somewhere 4,000 miles northwest of Vancouver, British Columbia. And this led to a large number of protests, and the group of environmentalists showed their concern on the impact of the test, which may cause seismic risk. In August 1969, the US government declared that they are going to conduct one megaton nuclear weapon test, which they codenamed Milro, on the Amchitka Island. And this was a successful test, and they got inspired by that, and then they decided to conduct another underground nuclear bomb test that would be a 5 megaton thermonuclear detonation. So it was 5 times more powerful than the previous one, and they gave it name Kennekin. This decision of the US government led to massive protest, and one of the major protesting groups against the testing was of the Canadian activists, which included Dorothy and Irving Stove, Mary and Jim Bohlin, Ben and Dorothy Metcalf, and Bob Hunter. And this group was Don't Make a Wave Committee. They decided that they are not going to Kennekin happen. They will not allow this test to happen on the island of Amchitka. And they chose a very unique method of stopping the test. They planned to sail from Vancouver, Canada to the test site to stop the nuclear testing on Amchitka. And the name of the boat was the Greenpeace, which later on became the name of the organization. They knew that they will be needing funds for that, and therefore a fundraiser concert was also organized. But this boat, the Greenpeace, could not reach the site. Why? Because the boat was intercepted by the US Navy before reaching Amchitka. And so the test could not be stopped. On November 6, 1971, the test was conducted, and it was the largest underground nuclear explosion. It was denoted with an explosive force equivalent to almost 400 times of the power of the Hiroshima bomb, causing a seismic shock of 7.0 on the Richter scale. So, technically, if we see, then we can say that Don't Make a Wave Committee initially failed. Why? Because it could not prevent the testing. But yes, all their effort could draw global attention. Their very unique method of planning to reach the site, that was somehow gave a kind of moral legitimacy to its efforts. And this was a new technique of combining direct confrontation with media exposure. And it proved to be a successful strategy. And this was, in fact, you see, first time when an environmental group actually went to the source of the problem to directly confront an issue. Finally, the Don't Make a Wave Committee changed its name, and it gave a name Greenpeace Foundation. This name was coined by Bill Darnell. And all the effort, all the protest by this Don't Make a Wave Committee finally led to a major victory. That was that US government decided to halt further testing in the area. And the US Atomic Commission announced the island would be bird sanctuary. So this can be called a major victory or achievement of the Greenpeace movement. This is the timeline of the whole event which we are just discussed, that how the things went on. In 1945, US conducted the first atomic bomb test, and therefore from 1950s what started growing global concern over nuclear testing and what would be its environmental consequences. In 1965, the long shot nuclear test was conducted on Amchitka Island. On October 1969, the Milro nuclear test of 1 megaton was conducted on Amchitka Island. It was a kind of calibration test to measure underground blast effect before a larger test, and this larger test was planned in 1969. It was announced that they are going to conduct Kanikin. In July 1971, Jim and Mary Bohlen, they started organizing opposition to the Amchitka test. And it is very important that these activists were somewhere dissatisfied with the inaction of Sierra Club. They were expecting that Sierra Club is one of the oldest environmental club and it should lead from the front, but it didn't happen. And therefore, they realized that they need some other organization which can actively fight for the cause. And this led to the formation of Greenpeace, which opposed nuclear testing. And the group officially now changed its name to Greenpeace. In 1971, as we had just seen, that activists chartered a fishing boat to sail to Amchitka and disrupt the nuclear test. The boat was stopped by the US Coast Guard and forced to turn back. And the Kanikin test happened in November 1971. And after that, a large number of global protests started, and Greenpeace activism put pressure on the US government. And finally, in April 1972, the US government announced that it would end nuclear testing on Amchitka, marking Greenpeace's first major victory. So this is the timeline of the whole event, which led to emergence of the Greenpeace movement and organization. Now we'll talk about who were the founding members of Greenpeace. The Greenpeace organization says that there was no single founder. Name, idea, spirit, and tactics can all be said to have separate lineages. Yes, but there were few people who played very, very crucial role in establishing Greenpeace. To name few of them, Bob Hunter, David McTaggart, and Dorothy and Irving Stove. They all were very different in their approach and method, but they together played very significant role in consolidation of Greenpeace and in its unique way of fighting against nuclear test and other environmental crises. Bob Hunter, who was a Canadian journalist, he was actually renowned for his media savvy style and inventive storytelling, and it was because of his effort only you see that organization could reach every household. He used a method, what he said, media mind bombs, that are stories and images that have the power to alter public perception. Because of his this method, all the campaigns of Greenpeace was well reported and reached every household. Second very important name is David McTaggart, who played a very, very important role in consolidation of Greenpeace, especially when number of separate groups started emerging within Greenpeace. It was Taggart who did immense effort to bring them together, and because of his effort only, finally the Greenpeace International emerged. Dorothy and Irving Stove, they were actually instrumental in the foundation of Greenpeace, and it was their effort where they advocated for this very unique method of bearing witness to environmental injustices. So they all have played different kind of role in consolidation of Greenpeace and also in somehow giving a kind of moral legitimacy to activities of Greenpeace. Now we'll talk about what are the various strategies which has been adopted by Greenpeace. Here you should know that Greenpeace in terms of strategy has gone through many phases of changes. When it was working as a grassroots movement, its strategy and methods were quite different. When it started institutionalizing itself and started working as a social movement organization, then the methods and strategies got changed. So first very important method which was adopted by Greenpeace, especially in its earlier campaigns, that was direct action and witness bearing. As we had seen that they decided that they'll sail to the testing site, and that was witness bearing. This action was intended to bear witness to what they term an ecological crime. And this method actually put pressure both on the Canadian and US governments. Another very important activity was grassroots activities. So they wanted to create awareness among the local people about the impact of these nuclear tests, environmental impact as well as impact on their health. And for that, they organized demonstrations, distributed pamphlets, organized meetings in various coastal towns in Alaska and British Columbia. They started connecting with the local community to make them aware. And this effort resulted in broadening the base of Greenpeace, and at the same time in broadening the base of opposition to nuclear test. Now, third is scientific reports. So, you see, at the same time, they were trying to create awareness among the local people, as well as they had to uh, appeal to educated audiences also. And for that, they adopted this method of preparing scientific reports. Like it produced a scientific review article summarizing both the positions of the Atomic Energy Commission and as well as its opponent. And through this report, they could appeal to educated audience. This strategy also helped legitimize its cause in the eyes of influential stakeholders. One very important method was effective use of media. It effectively utilized media coverage to amplify its message. They did what? They ensured that each of their campaigns should be properly reported. And this led to a kind of situation where they raised awareness beyond local communities. So through grassroots activities, they got connected to local communities, but they wanted their message a global uh, presence or a global reach, and therefore this effective utilization of media helped them. And on the other hand, this media attention also pressured government officials to respond to public concerns regarding nuclear testing. Because of these reporting, now public started asking question on nuclear test, and now the officials had to respond to that. So this effective use of media can be called one of the very successful method adopted by Greenpeace. Next method is legal advocacy and policy lobbying. So, as a result of institutionalization, Green now actively lobbies national governments and international bodies to devise stringent environmental policies. Greenpeace participates in most of the global environmental summits to have policy impact. So, on the basis of this mix bouquet of strategies, we can say that it speaks about the gradual evolution of the organization from a grassroots environmental movement to a structured, moderate social movement organization. In the beginning only, I said that Greenpeace presents a very interesting case to understand that how strategies and methods start changing when a grassroots movement shifts towards a social movement organization. So these are the various strategies and methods adopted by Greenpeace movement. Now, these are some of the major campaigns. We have already seen the campaign against the underground test on Antarctica. Another very important was this Save the Whale campaign and seal hunt protest. It was very unique. The method in this campaign was also unique in the sense they used to put their boat or place their boat between the hunters and the whales. Another very important campaign was against French nuclear testing opposition, which was an atmospheric test. Then Antarctic environmental protection, genetically modified species. This is This campaign was also very, very important. Then climate change action, forest protection initiatives, plastic pollution awareness, deforestation and indigenous rights advocacy, and campaign to protect the world's oceans. So these are some of the major campaigns of Greenpeace. Now we'll talk about a very, very important aspect, that is about the structural evolution of Greenpeace and internal conflicts. Over a period of time, number of issues, number of conflicts emerged within Greenpeace. Greenpeace, as we had discussed earlier also, that it operated as loosely structured network of branches which were affiliated with the Vancouver group. And initially, they allowed full autonomy to each of the branch. Why? Because the leaders like Bob Hunter, they were supporters of this idea of decentralized tribes. So they said each of the branch can create their own culture, they can raise their funds independently, and they can also take direct environmental action. In the beginning, it helped in broadening the base of the movement and organization. But what happened gradually, that because of this laissez-faire approach, it led to a kind of non-standard and chaotic actions. It was very difficult to say that what is typically a Greenpeace method or Greenpeace approach. Why? Because every branch was operating in its own way. And this led to a decision by Vancouver to amend bylaws, and where they decided that now Vancouver is going to exert more control over branches. However, those branches which were enjoying this autonomy, including San Francisco, they were in opposition to this centralization of the decision making. They opposed this change or this shift. Another very important conflict was on the issue of strategy. One group believed that now we should move towards political advocacy, and other favored the earlier method of direct action. Further, one very important challenge which Greenpeace faced with its kind of expansion at the global level, that was structural difficulties, factionalism, and also financial problems. Greenpeace faced a financial crisis in 1977. This also strained relation between Vancouver and San Francisco. However, David McTaggart played a very, very significant role in somehow resolving all these conflicts. It was he who negotiated a settlement in 1979, and he played very, very crucial role in consolidating Greenpeace into a single worldwide organization. And it was his effort that led to the creation of Greenpeace International on 14 October 1979. Now, this new centralized structure did what? It merged various branches under a European dominated organization having its headquarters in Amsterdam. And this marked a shift from a grassroots movement to a hierarchical organization. So, in contrast to its anti-authoritarian, decentralized origins, Greenpeace moved to a hierarchical structure. Although it was criticized widely for imitating corporate governance method or format. So by 1978, Greenpeace had largely shifted away from its movement characteristics towards a more bureaucratic framework. And that is transitioning from movement to a moderate SMO or social movement organization. These are some of the significant achievements of Greenpeace. Ban on the dumping of radioactive and industrial waste into the sea, ban on nuclear weapon testing, ban on toxic waste exports to less developed countries, moratorium on commercial whaling, United Nations Convention providing for better management of wild fisheries, a 50-year moratorium on mineral exploitation in Antarctica. These are some of the major achievements. This list of the achievement of Greenpeace you see is very, very large. These are some of the major achievements. Now we'll come to the critique of Greenpeace. We cannot deny that it has contributed immensely to the cause of ecology and peace, but critics have raised certain objections to its working style and strategy. One very important charge against Greenpeace is that to justify its cause, sometimes it presents too simplistic account of scientific issue and also exaggerates the issue. Like in the oil rig campaign, Greenpeace claimed Shell's disposal plan posed severe environmental risk. However, in the later scientific review, it was found that Greenpeace's initial assessment was somewhere exaggerated. A very important critique of Greenpeace is regarding its anti GMO or genetically modified organism campaign, especially against golden rice. Some of the critique they say that this campaign actually talked about protecting environment but did not take into consideration the concern for food security. You see, I can say that in this critique of GMO campaign, what we can find that there are two sides of a story. One which is presented by the opponent of the campaign, and another which was presented by the Greenpeace. And you see, reality lies somewhere between these two accounts. So we'll see that what points have been raised by the critique. A very, very important critique is done by George Church, who was one Harvard professor of genetics. And he has used very strong word against Greenpeace GMO, anti-GMO campaign. He said, a million lives are at stake every year due to vitamin A deficiency. And golden rice was basically ready for use in 2002. He says, every year you delay it, that's another million people dead. So the critics say this anti-GMO campaign somewhere didn't take into consideration the need of food security. I would suggest you that if you want to go in detail of this debate, go on the website of Greenpeace, and they have given detail of their viewpoint and their arguments against GMO. Another very important critique of Greenpeace is that it gives priority to the cause of environmental protection over genuine socio-economic concerns, and in fact sometimes disregards ground realities. Another very important critique is done from the third world perspective. The third world critiques say what? That Greenpeace somewhere promotes a kind of Eurocentric idea of environmentalism. It doesn't pay attention to the developmental needs of the global south. The countries which have started their development journey very late. So the critics say Greenpeace imposes the same standard on these countries as it imposes on the affluent country. And that's why they say it is somewhere Eurocentric idea of environmentalism. Third world critics also say that Greenpeace leadership and decision-making structures, they somewhere do not give due representation to the voices from the global south. But yes, despite all these criticisms, we'll have to accept that Greenpeace has played very crucial role in bringing the issue of environmental protection at the center of the development discourse across globe, and that led to major policy transformation. You see, it was the Greenpeace activism. It made it very clear for all the stakeholders, the corporations, the government, that whenever they are planning any development project, they need to take into consideration the environmental needs, its impact on environment, if they actually want smooth implementation of those development project. And this credit we can give to Greenpeace, because of its fiery protest, it became very clear that we cannot talk about development unless and until we are talking about the environmental concern. So, this way, Greenpeace played a very, very significant role in bringing a kind of transformation in the development discourse where environmental concern was at the center. These are some of the references that I have used in my lecture. For a detailed understanding of the topic, you should go through these references. And now these are the activity questions. You have to evaluate the journey of Greenpeace from loose grassroots level activism to formal organized structure. You have to mention what are the distinct features of Greenpeace, which distinguishes it from other environmental movements. Discuss, discuss its role in anti-nuclear testing. Now, how would you assess the policy impact of Greenpeace activism? So, thank you, learner. Uh, in today's lecture, we try to understand Greenpeace movement, nature of the organization, various strategies adopted by the organization, the shift in the nature of organization and the movement, and also its major campaign achievement, and also some of the major critique of the Greenpeace movement. So thank you for joining the session. Now we'll meet in the next lecture.